Whew. Good evening, good evening, good evening. So, I am just getting off calls for the night. I had a long day today, but the last two calls I had were on business structure, and people are kind of getting told the wrong thing. So I kind of wanted to go over again how we need to be properly structuring our business for asset protection, because I'm seeing that, like, I'm not going to name any names, but some really big, popular law firms who do LLC formation and holding companies, all that good stuff are, maybe not explaining things how they need to be explained. So I figured, why not go on live and break it down just so that, everyone is protected. Okay. Now, if you want me to kind of go through your personal business structure, kind of give you a game plan, feel free to book a business structure call. But I want to break down how we need to protect our assets if we're owning assets. So if we're doing Turo and we have cars on Turo or some kind of rental platform, if we're doing Airbnb or short-term leasing, or if we just have tenants, so we have, real estate, we have property, we want to make sure that we are not doing business in the same LLC that owns the asset. Let me get my cups. Hold on. So the call I just got off of this evening, a young man owns a couple of rental homes. Now, here's the thing. When you start owning assets, right? So you own rental property, you own vehicles, you own equipment. Maybe we own a trademark, to a popular brand. Once you start, come on, bang. You know how your hair is dirty, but you're like, let me hold for like 2 more days. I'm trying to be cute for the weekend. But anyway, when you start owning assets, you now become a target, meaning there's a big target on the back of your head or the back of your back, meaning people are looking to sue you. It's kind of like this. If you're sitting at a red light and you get bumped in the back of your car by a 1971 Chevy DeVille, with no windows, right? One spare tire, the rest are on hubcaps. Are you even about to exchange insurance information? Are you even about to, stop and get the information and call the police? Well, probably not, because 9 out of 10 times, the owner of the 1971 Chevy DeVille doesn't even have insurance, so it's a waste of your time. Now, if a semi-diesel truck bumped you at the red light, it may have just tapped your car, right? It didn't leave a scratch. It didn't leave a bump. But the fact that it's a semi-diesel, what's going to happen? You're going to fall out the car. All of a sudden, you're having nightmares. You having, night tremors, body sweats, migraines. You can't focus. You got PSTD or whatever it's called, PTSD, whatever it is. You about to go to the chiropractor. You're about to milk this bad boy. Why? Because you know that the owner of the semi-diesel truck has to have at least $1 million policy insurance, and you're trying to collect a coin. Maybe not you personally, but there are people out here in the world who are looking to collect a coin, and preferably a free coin, okay? So, if you own assets, right? If you own vehicles, equipment, we own trademarks, we own property, you are walking around with a target on your back. For this reason, you need to make sure that you're properly protected, okay? So in this scenario, if you own the property, we don't want to own the property and do business with that property. Meaning this, if I own a home and I am now going to have a tenant, right? I don't want to sign that lease in the same LLC that owns the property. Well, why? Well, if the tenant were to fall, break their neck, and sue me for $2 million, I may probably only have $1 million policy. Well, then this LLC is now on the hook for $1 million. The tenant can now seize whatever assets the LLC owns to sell them to satisfy that $1 million judgment. So let's just say I have some money in the bank and I own the property. Well, the tenant will just take my property and the money in the bank to satisfy that judgment. We don't want that, okay? So when we are setting up our business, especially when we own assets, we want to minimize our risk. We want to reduce the exposure of losing everything. If you are hit with a lawsuit and you lose, you will lose something, okay? So don't call me talking about, I want to bulletproof my business. I want to make sure that nobody gets nothing, okay? You cannot bulletproof your business, okay? You will lose something. If you don't keep the money in the bank, it's called being undercapitalized, meaning you have to have enough money in your bank to be able to pay your bills, run your business. If you don't run it normally, then it's called being undercapitalized, and that's a way to pierce the corporate veil, which means basically that means the LLC doesn't exist. I'm now taking all your assets, okay? So you will lose something in a lawsuit. Asset protection is saying, let me minimize what I lose. So, same scenario, different structure. If I own the property in my holding company, I'm doing business in my property management LLC. It has some money in the bank. The property management LLC is going to sign the lease agreement with the tenant. The property management LLC is going to be collecting the rent, dealing with the tenant, doing any other repairs. Same scenario. Tenant falls, breaks their neck, suing for $2 million, and they win. I only have $1 million policy. Well, I will only lose what this LLC has, which is I will lose whatever money I had in the bank. I will not lose my asset, my actual property. It's a lot easier to rebuild, to pivot, to start over if I have to, form a new LLC and run the same play. Versus if I lost all the cash and I lost the property, now I got to start from square zero. I got to now raise money, raise a down payment, raise capital, get funding, blah, 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 to now get a down payment on a home, get the asset again. It's having to do a lot of work. So would you rather have to start from square zero, or would you rather I can keep my property, I'll have to lose or dissolve this LLC because baby, she owe $1 million. We're gonna sit her over here, form a new LLC, and then have a new tenant and run the same play. Asset protection is about trying to minimize or reduce your loss. So we don't want to actually lose the home. We don't want to actually have to lose the apartment complex, the duplex. If we have rental cars on Turo, we don't want to lose all the vehicles. It probably took you some time to raise the money, save the money, pay off the property, pay off the vehicle. So we don't want to lose everything. In business, something will happen. You will make a mistake. Your employee will make a mistake. Something will just happen and you may be, caught in litigation. Wouldn't you sleep better at night knowing that the only entity that's being sued, the only thing we can lose in that entity is going to be the bank account? We're not going to lose our hard asset. I'm still able to keep my asset. I'm still able to pay my mortgage, keep my wife in this luxury car and her shopping in Target and getting off my last nerve. These kids can still be in ballet, football, and private school doing what they got to do. My life is still going on, although I am facing litigation, versus having to deal with, I'm facing litigation. I'm now having to sell my home. I'm now having to turn in this luxury car, and my wife is now getting a Corolla. She is no longer at Target. She is now at Wally Wall or good old Walmart, and these kids are now in public school. Now I am cussing and fussing with my spouse. These kids don't like me. And now, let's talk about my monkeys, right? Now all the monkeys are on my neck. This is called stress. This is called financial pressure. This is called not knowing what my next move's going to be. This is how did my life go from sugar to shit with just one mistake? Okay. In these business streets, I don't care how long it takes for you to build your business. It just takes one mistake, the wrong mistake with the wrong structure to wipe all that hard work away. Okay. I'm not telling you something that I've Googled, aunties. Oh, I look good, but I've been in these business streets almost 20 years. Okay. I'm not telling you what I've coached somebody. I'm not telling you about an article I've read on Google. I'm telling you about the lawsuits I have been able to win, the lawsuits that have been dismissed. I have been in the battlefield. Okay. And the structure is everything. Same scenario if I have multiple locations, right? So if I have maybe 5 rental homes, same scenario. I want my rental homes to be owned by a holding company, something separate from the entity that's doing business. Any entity doing business with the public can get sued. So the LLC on the lease agreement, the LLC that's doing financing with the bank, the LLC that got these credit cards, any kind of business with an LLC with the public can be sued. Okay. So the holding company is not establishing business credit. The holding company is not about to get no loan or no line of credit. We are not about to walk into Ford and finance a car. The holding company is just off in the cut chilling. It's just there. Okay. Its only job is to hold the asset, meaning the deed for the property, the title for the vehicle or the equipment, the trademark is in the holding company's name, the copyright is in the holding company's name. All it does is hold assets. We're not owning businesses. We're not doing anything that is litigious, nothing that can spark a lawsuit. So the holding company is going to be off in the cut, minding its own business. No one knows about it but you and your other subsidiaries. That's it. Okay. Now let's just say I own 5 homes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. 5 homes will be in the holding company. Now, here is another mistake that one of my clients made today, right? So what we'll do is we're going to have a lease agreement between the holding company and the LLC that's doing business with the tenant to lease the property to them. It's going to be a real commercial lease agreement. Every month, the operating LLC is going to pay the holding company a lease fee, okay, for being able to use the property. The property management or the operating LLC is going to enter into the lease agreement with the tenant. Now, you can have, if I have 5 properties and I'm going to be collecting rent on 5 different, from 5 different tenants. Now, you can have this scenario. I have a holding company owning the property. I have a property management or operating LLC that's managing the property, a lease agreement between these two, and then this LLC collects the rent on the properties. This is a doable structure. However, if we have the same scenario, tenant at house number 1 falls and breaks her neck, sues me. She wins for $2 million. I only have $1 million policy. She can now take all of the cash flow of all of my rental properties since I'm doing it all under one LLC. If you like to just be able to sleep better at night and you want to kind of give yourself some extra protection, what we want to do is we want to mitigate our losses. That means we want to reduce what our loss is going to be. So if I have multiple properties, you could also set up multiple LLCs. So each LLC will be collecting rent on a property, right? Now, is that going to be more LLC fees? It is. Is that going to be more EIN numbers? It is. Is that going to be more business bank accounts you have to have logins and keep a record of? It is. Does that mean now I got to, do an annual report for all these LLCs? You do. Do I have to have an operating agreement for all? Yes, you do. Do I have to pay an annual fee for all? Yes, you do. But same scenario, If I have, well, I'll say 3 properties, I have 3 cups. If I have tenant number 1 fall and break their neck, sue me for $2 million, I only have $1 million policy. This LLC's on the hook for $1 million. They can only touch what this LLC has. They can't touch the cash flow of my other rental properties. Okay? In business, cash flow is king, right? Cash flow is going to be the backbone of your business. Cash flow is going to be paying your employees. It's going to be paying your mortgage. It's going to be paying for this private school tuition. It's going to be paying for your inventory. Cash flow may be funding your other business ventures. So your cash flow is the first thing after the asset of what you want to protect. Okay. So can you do it with, one LLC collecting all the rent for the rental properties? You can, okay? But when the shit hits the fan, and trust me, the shit always hits the fan, it's just when, you'll be able to sleep better at night if we just took the extra time to form the multiple entities just to protect the cash flow of these businesses. So if this one's being sued, I'm going to lose that cash flow, but I can still rely on the cash flow of my other 2 properties to get me through the litigation, to help me pay the attorney's fees, to help cover some of these costs. Okay. So when we're thinking big picture, once you start acquiring assets, you got to remember, I have a target on my back. People think that I'm rich. People think that I have something that they can take for free by suing me. So you want to make sure if that were to happen, or if you were to make a mistake, okay? Maybe you had something wrong where the tree in the front of the yard was growing up and it messed up the foundation. You were supposed to fix it and you just didn't get around to it, or you had called someone and they forgot to come out. And in the interim, the tenant tripped on the cement that had grown up because of the root. It's an accident, right? You aren't a bad business owner. You didn't purposely plant that tree there 80 years ago and make it, mess up the foundation. You did your due diligence, and once you found out that the foundation or the cement was coming up, you called the person to come look at it. The person didn't come, and in the interim, someone hurt themselves. Bad things happen to good people all the time. That's why you want to make sure that when you're structuring your business, that number 1, you understand why you have this structure, okay? There are multiple structures out there. There is more than one way to skin a cat. The most important thing I need everyone on this live to understand is, what is the best structure for you? Because what's best for you won't be what's best for me, and what's best for me won't be what's best for the next person. Okay, so whatever you have going on, whatever business ventures you have, what is the best structure for you? Now, in this same scenario, I'm just going to go back to having one property. Take my highlighters out. So I have one property and I'm leasing it out of this entity. I'm going to have a lease agreement between my holding company and my operating LLC to be able to use the property. And I'll have a second lease agreement between the operating LLC and the tenant. Now, as we're forming our structure and we're doing these lease agreements, it has to be a real transaction, okay? So your holding company has to be like Bank of America. If you've ever had a mortgage, your mortgage is due on the 1st. Depending on who your mortgage company, they may give you 3 to 5 days, to come on in with that mortgage. After that, you're going to be late. Now, depending on the state that you're in and whatever kind of mortgage you signed, they're not going to let you slide on the mortgage, right? So they aren't going to say, "Oh, you had a bad month. Don't worry about it. Just pay me double in next month." That's not how, the real world works. When you don't pay that mortgage, you're about to get an eviction process started, right? Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Capital One, Chase, they're not playing with their money. Okay. If you are a holding company and we have a lease agreement, it has to be the same thing. The operating LLC has to pay the holding company whatever is the lease agreement. So they will actually sign a commercial lease agreement, and you will decide whatever is the amount of rent that you want the operating LLC to pay the holding company for being able to lease out that property. But this has to be a real transaction. So a check has to be written from the operating LLC to the holding company every month for the rent, or a wire transfer has to be made every month from the operating LLC to the holding company for the rent. Just because you own the holding company and you own the operating LLC, I'm not telling you this principle or philosophy just like in, hey, this is what you could do, but because, I'm the holding company and I'm the operating LLC, I ain't really tripping. It's all the same thing because it's all me. Well, no. When we're talking about forming business entities, we're talking about creating a separate person. So the holding company, which will be an LLC, is a separate entity that can walk into a bank and get financing. It can walk into the bank and get a loan. It can go apply for a grant. It can establish business credit. It's a whole nother person. Your operating LLC that you formed is a separate entity from you. In its EIN, it can go establish business credit. It can go get a loan, a line of credit. It can go finance a car. It can apply for business grants. If you don't treat the entities like they're separate from you, then it's going to be something called piercing the corporate veil, where they're going to act like, although you form these LLCs, we're going to act like they don't exist, and then everything now falls on you. So, I am Joy. I am a mom. I am also a daughter. I am also a sister. Okay, so I play multiple roles. Right? So just like I play multiple roles with being a mom, being a daughter, being a sister, you may play multiple roles in your life. The same way you will have multiple roles with your LLCs. Although you own them, so you're kind of like, it's all me, it's not all you. There are different roles that you're playing. So this lease has to be a signed commercial lease agreement. However long the lease agreement is, whether it's a 1-year lease agreement, a 3-year lease agreement, a 5-year lease agreement, when that lease expires, there needs to be another lease agreement. Although you may own both the entities and you're not tripping on where the money goes, if we're setting these things up, it has to be a real transaction. So every month there has to be a lease payment paid to the holding company. If we set these things up on paperwork and we don't follow the process and procedure in real life, what's going to happen is when you do get sued, opposing counsel is going to be digging to see what does this LLC own. When they find out that the LLC only has a couple $1,000s in the bank, they don't have anything for real, they're going to start digging. Well, who owns the property? After they sniff long enough, they're going to realize that another entity owns the property. Well, this business owner is kind of smart. They must have been on one of Joy Hunt's lives. Well, let's see how good they really are. Okay. So J&H Holdings owns the property. Great. Let me see the LLC for J&H Holdings. Is it an active LLC? Well, did you file your annual report? Did you pay your annual fee? If it's not active, guess what? The LLC doesn't exist. They're going to say, well, where's the EIN for J&H Holdings? If you don't have an EIN, guess what? It doesn't exist. Oh, well, this owns it and you're leasing it? Great. Let me get the last 6 months of bank statements for J&H Holding and let me see these lease payments. There's no lease payments in the bank account. They're going to pierce the corporate veil. They're going to say, I see what you was trying to do, but you didn't do what you needed to do. Okay, so everything that I'm talking about is what has to go on. It has to be a real transaction. So although you own the operating LLC, and although you own the holding LLC, we still have to move the money around to the different business entities to keep all of what we're trying to do. Same if you own vehicles on Turo, right? We don't want to own the vehicle. Or let's just say you own your vehicles yourself. If you were to get into a car accident and kill someone and get sued, whatever you own, whatever property was in your personal name, whatever vehicles were in your personal name, whatever trademarks or copyrights that you own, the person can take that. So whether you want to use a trust to put your assets in, or if you want to use a holding company to put your assets in, the assets must be held correctly, meaning the deed is going to be in the holding company's name. The title is in the holding company's name. It's not just I have the title in my name, but because I formed a holding company, I just think miraculously my asset is now in the holding company. Everything is a process as to how we get items into a holding company or into a trust. Okay, so make sure you understand why you're doing what you're doing, and then how you need to get the asset into the trust, how you need to get the asset into the holding company, whichever is going to be your asset protection vehicle of choice, okay? But all of the transactions have to stick. All of the following of the rules of the corporate formalities have to stick. Everything has to be a real transaction, and you want to make sure that we're never doing business with an LLC that has an asset. Can you do business? Yes, you can. Okay, I am speaking on asset protection. Now, I'm only saying this because my client who I just talked to about an hour ago, he paid a very, prominent law firm for consultation, and they are consulting him on what is the simplest thing to do. The simplest thing to do was to run everything, sign the lease agreement with this LLC, have the asset in this LLC, and just have this one LLC. Well, when we're talking about asset protection, I'm not talking about what is the simplest thing. I'm not talking about what the easiest thing to do is. I'm talking about when the shit hits the fan, when can you sleep at night? What can you do to make sure that your mortgage will always get paid? How's the best structure to make sure these kids stay in these private schools and this baseball and this cheerleading? Although they suck, they still need to have their extracurricular activities. What do you need to do to make sure that this wife is happy? She can get off your neck and give you a break, right? That's where I'm coming from. As a business attorney, my job is to see how can your business, how much exposure do you have? How liable is your type of business? What is the worst case scenario? And from the worst case scenario, how do we set up systems and procedures? How do we set up your structure? How do we set up your business so when the worst thing happens, you will lose the lease? You can't plan for accidents after the fact. You can't go and get the hurricane insurance after the hurricane done took out your house, right? If you're living in a hurricane zone, either you check the box, yes, I want it, and you start paying it before the hurricane comes, or you're just going to be asked out. Same with business structure. Do you have the correct business structure when you're starting your business? You're in your business. You're just trying to make something shake. You're just trying to rob Peter to pay Paul. You're just trying to maybe rob Peter and Paul to pay Mary. You're trying to get the inventory. You're trying to hire these employees. You're trying to stop the theft. You're trying to grow you're in your business, running your business. But the first thing you need to do with the first set of money that you get is to make sure I am set up for success. When my employee makes a mistake, I'm not asked out. I got a good little mistake to show y'all too. Because these employees, baby, these employees are going to make a mistake. And you got to think to yourself, have I ever made a mistake as an employee? Have you maybe, did something wrong, checked the wrong box, didn't do what you were supposed to do so that, and you made a mistake? Baby, now look at this. Look at this truck. Now, whoever owns this trucking company, do they have a gun to their head, or are they jumping off a bridge, right? This freight gonna be late. This truck is gone. I don't know what the note on the truck is, but clearly the driver is at fault. I don't know how many other DOT violations this driver has already had, but clearly if we can't assess or know that the trailer can't fit underneath this bridge, I can highly assume he's had some other violations or not a proper training, or maybe his certification has been expired, right? So when stuff like this happens, and this is normal, okay? In business, mistakes happen. How are you structured? When these lawsuits start coming, are you about to lose everything? We're going to lose something. But we want to set ourselves up to lose the least amount so I can survive the lawsuit. I can survive the loss and pivot either into a different industry or regain myself and, rebrand and regrow my business. You are going to take a loss. Forget an accident. In business, you are going to take an L. You want to make sure that when I take that L, I don't lose it all. I can pivot. I have enough in me to still gather whatever are the broken pieces and put something together to keep things going. So business structure is going to be the first thing, right? Business structure. Right on top of that is going to be contracts, licenses, permits, insurance. All of that is a must. It's not, well, I'm going to get the insurance once I start making money, baby. After this structure is insurance, because this happens. You got to have insurance. We can't be late on the insurance, right? So if we're late on something, our mortgage may be late, okay? Because what's not going to be late is this insurance. We're not about to pay our mortgage and not have insurance on the business, because what's bringing in the cash flow? What's bringing in the money? Okay, my credit may get dinged. Your credit may get dinged, right? But if you lose the business, you don't have anything. You don't have a source or a resource to be able to make the cash flow to pay all these bills. So insurance is next. I also people talk to a commercial insurance agent in your state, unless you are in some kind of specialty insurance, and then it's not going to be state specific, but making sure that you are insured and not underinsured. So depending on how many locations you have, what it is you're selling, how many different vehicles you may have, how much is your inventory, depending on how big your business is. Every year, you should be going over your insurance policy. Do I have enough coverage, or am I now underinsured? When you got your policy 2 years ago, your business has probably grown since then. Your insurance adjuster doesn't know what you have going on. Not your insurance adjuster. Your insurance agent doesn't know what you have going on. They're not at your business every day. They are getting their commission whether you make money or not. They don't know. Are you calling? I mean, you're paying every time you pay your insurance premium, they're getting paid. If they're getting paid every single month, then why not give them a call? Hey, girl, I'm just following up. I know I have this $1 million policy, but let me tell you what's changed since 6 months ago when I got the policy. We now have a second location. Our profits are now increased, blah, blah, blah. I have now hired on some more employees. When can I come by for a quick consultation? Or when can we get on a phone call to make sure I have enough coverage? What is the standard coverage for a business this size now in my industry? Is this the best policy I should be having? What else is offered? See, depending on how savvy your insurance agent is, they all they want is a commission check. They may not even care about you. Okay. Everyone who's in business is not a great business person, right? They may need, hey, I need to close a $1,000 policy, and you walk in talking about you want a $1,000 policy. Great. They're going to sell it to you. But you may really need $2,000. So, hey, tell me some problems that are happening in my industry and why they need insurance coverage. I want to make sure that whatever, insurance provider I'm with, that they can handle my type of business. You are paying them. So whenever I'm paying someone, I have an expectation of what I need from you since you're the expert in the industry. Just like when I go to my CPA, okay, baby, what are these new tax deductions? What rules do I qualify for? I need to buy X, Y, and Z. Do I buy it now? Do I buy it next year? Like, I'm already coming with my questions because I'm paying you, right? So whatever policy you got when you first started, it may not be enough, or you may be underinsured, or you may need to have some additional insurances. But if you don't ask these questions and your insurance agent isn't the best business person, they may just be selling you anything. Okay. So we go from structure. Next is insurance. Whatever are these license or permits that your state is saying or your industry is saying that you have to have. If you are doing business without the proper license and permit, it's like you're doing business ass out, because all what you're forming, all these LLCs, all that's going to be negated if you didn't go through and pay the $75 to get the license or permit that your industry or your state requires. A lot of times when I'm doing these consultations and I ask these questions, they're like, oh, well, my homegirl, she do it and she don't have no permit. Well, baby, who's your homegirl? Like, is your homegirl now the standard? Your homegirl isn't the standard. I don't know if she's doing business correctly or incorrectly, but whatever is your city, whatever is your state, whatever is your industry, they're going to say what you have to have. If you're in credit repair, you have to have a bond. Are you doing credit repair without being bonded? If you're in credit repair, you should have errors and omission or E&O insurance. Are you doing credit repair and you don't have E&O insurance? So when you get hit with a lawsuit, when you get hit with a complaint, they're going to say, what is your bond number? Where is the policy for your E&O insurance? If you don't have that, you can't say, well, I didn't know. The girl on Instagram didn't tell me. My homegirl didn't have it and she didn't have a problem. You have to follow whatever is the industry standard as to what you have to do business in that industry, okay? A bond is going to be where if you make a mistake, a person can get reimbursed, and a bond will be up to a certain amount. Your industry will tell you, hey, I think if you do credit repair, I think you have to have like $100,000 bond, right? They're going to tell you how much of a bond you have to be able to do business in this industry. So if something were to happen, they can go collect on your bond because you may not have it in your bank account, right? But if you're doing business without the proper structure, without the proper insurance coverage, without the proper license and permits, you are out of order and you're exposing all of your assets. So now because you didn't pay the $100 a month for your E&O insurance, now they're about to take your entire business away from you, all because your homegirl didn't have it. So why do you have to have it? See, I know on social media, pay me $99 and take my course and be a millionaire tomorrow, right? I'm telling you what happens in these real business streets. Something is going to go wrong, or you're going to get one of those aggravating clients from hell. The client who you gave the discount to, the client who you gave half off to because they was complaining because they couldn't afford your fee, the client that you looked out for, whoever you looked out the most for, and whoever paid the least amount of money, that's going to be that aggravating client from hell. That's going to be the one to report you to whoever is the board. That's the one who's going to, file all these complaints. The person who paid the least. The client who paid your top package, they ain't stunting nothing, girl. When you get it to me, get it to me. When you fix it, fix it. They are worried about making their own money. The client who, gave a discount and then did a payment plan on the discount and then was late on the payment plan and then asked you how come you charge an interest fee on the payment, and instead of breaking it down to 4 payments, can you break it down to 6 payments, and my account is negative, can I cash app you? That client right there, that's the one that's going to call the board on you. And when the board asks, hey, I'm just doing, we had a client complaint, so it's proper protocol that we have to ask for all this information. Can I see your LLC? Can I see your license? Can I see your permit? No. And the board is, once a complaint is filed, especially if you hold some kind of license, there are proper procedures that they have to go, and they have to make sure that you are operating your business correctly, right? So you want to make sure that when that aggravating client who got the discount on the payment plan and was late on the payment plan and DM'd you and sent you 8,000 emails and had to call you 50 times to get the payment, that one right there, when they do the complaint, all your stuff is in a row. Here's this, here's that, here's this, here's that. What's next? Because you don't have time to now be stressed over this $10 complaint. Because by the time you done gave it half off, discounted, they paid late, you cash app, the late fees, boom, boom, boom. You actually paid them $10 to take your class. Or you paid them $10 to do the service. You lost money on this client. That's the client who's going to file the complaint. So when that complaint does come, you want to make sure that everything is in order. Because the second they come into your business and they sniff around and stuff isn't in order, well, now that agency is now going to be like, well, let me see this file and let me see. Now we're opening up our own can of worms. All because my homegirl said that I didn't have to do it. And the person on Instagram said if I buy the course, I'll be a millionaire by the time I hit checkout. And they didn't tell me how to do any of this stuff. And then I listen to that girl Joy, but she's so negative. She keeps talking about all these things that can happen to your business. No one else is talking about all these things that can happen to your business because they're not really in business. They aren't talking about it because they never experienced, because they're not really in real business. Okay. So when you're doing real business, you're going to experience all of these things. If anyone who's giving these little hearts and fires, they've had the investigation. They've had the charge back from the client. They're like, girl, been there, done that, times 10, got a t-shirt. They understand. But it's just a part of business. You got to take the good with the bad. It's just a part of business. You just want to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row. Okay. So your business structure, making sure that you understand how your structure needs to be. Book a consultation. If you're busy, I have a Structure My Business webinar where I break everything down at your own pace. I have a holding company webinar. If you think you need a holding company, break all that down at your own pace. You need to have some kind of commercial insurance agent to be giving you your insurance. You need to be contacting either your industry state board or your city or your state to know what kind of licenses and permits you need to have before you start doing business. So that when you do start doing business, your foundation, your structure, everything is 100. Your books are in order, your structure is good, your insurance coverage is good, your license and permits, everything is good. Now I can build on my proper foundation. But when we have, stuff kind of sliding through the cracks, the second something happens, it's just going to be a shitstorm and like a domino effect of just negative after negative after negative after negative after negative. And we don't want that because something will happen. It's not if something will happen, it's when something's going to happen, because it's just business. It's part of business. So you want to make sure when it happens, you're protected. We don't have the monkeys on our neck. We are sleeping at night. We are sound. The kids are good. The bills are being paid. We are a little aggravated because we have these attorney fees, but we structured everything great so that we're covered. Our cash flow is protected, and no one's missing a beat. Everyone is doing what they need to do. We still getting these Christmas gifts. We still going on this Thanksgiving trip. Life has not stopped for us. One monkey hasn't stopped the show. Okay, so that's my little rant on proper business structure and asset protection. We want to make sure that we're not doing business in the same LLC that owns any kind of property. Okay, so whether we're owning property, real estate, vehicles, equipment, trademarks, copyright, we want to separate those two for asset protection reasons. Okay. If you need a consultation, book one with me, get one of my webinars, and I will, of course, see you guys at the bank.